Hi, and welcome back to the DAOI Talks Expert Series. A couple of old adages that you're probably familiar with are that you can't believe everything that you read, and the truth is stranger than fiction. Both of these prove true in the case of the episode that we have for you today. Last fall, I was visiting Master Hao Yang at his home in Montreal, and I've been studying Wudang sword for several years now, and that's what the conversation turned to. And Master Yang was telling me about a man that he knew when Master Yang, was a child, and the man's name was Ma Jie, and he was a well-known and well-regarded figure in the martial arts community in Tianjin. And Ma Jie, Master Yang told me, more or less single-handedly preserved an original Wudang sword form. It was almost completely lost. He was the only person that survived that had this form. And the form, as Master Yang described it to me, contained the use of flying daggers, which is a pretty spectacular, uh, feature for a form to have. And when he told me that, I remembered that I'd read about such a thing in a book that I have. I have hundreds of books on different martial arts, and this is one of them. And this is the book in question. It's called Major Methods of the Wudang Sword. And the book was originally written by a man named Huang Yuan Zhou. And this book was translated into English by Dr. Mei-Hui and has a commentary by Master Chang and they speak about the flying daggers in the book. And when I originally read it, I sort of dismissed the flying dagger aspect of it because I thought maybe that was just an apocryphal story, something sensationalist that, got passed down through the ages because it reminded people of wuxia novels or something of that nature. But Master Yang told me, no, that was an actual feature of the form, was the use of these flying daggers. So when I returned to the United States, I decided to contact Dr. Mei-Hui and Master Chang Wu-Na. They are the co-instructors and head instructors of the Wudang Kung Fu Academy in Seattle, Washington, also known as Wudang Dan Pai. And they were courteous and friendly enough to give me a interview. And while I wanted to talk about Wudang sword and flying daggers, and we did indeed talk about that, what the conversation turned to was an expression of love and respect that these two people had for their teacher, Ma Jie. And they have dedicated their lives to passing on and preserving the things that he taught to them. So they had this very narrow chance that Ma Jie was able to receive this original Wudang sword style and pass it along to his students. And they've preserved it and brought it to the West. And not just Wudang sword style, but all sorts of martial arts. Kung Fu, Bagua, Xingyi, Qigong, meditation. And I found them to be just incredibly sincere, heartfelt people, and the type of students that have a dedication to their teacher that we just don't see that much anymore. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. It was an incredible conversation, a lot of great stories, a lot of great knowledge passed along. And I think that these people, Dr. Liu and Master Chang, are really great examples of the way that martial arts students and teachers should be in this day and age. Hope you enjoy. So you both have very extensive backgrounds in martial arts, and I wanted to just ask each of you individually a little bit about how you got started in martial arts and why, when and why. Dr. Liu, we'll start with you. Could you talk a little bit about your involvement?
Okay, I grew up in Taiwan. Okay, and during the year in Taiwan, it was not so safe. During those period of time, the Kuomintang, okay, from mainland China, they retreated to Taiwan. And my hometown is in Taoyuan County, okay, in Taiwan, northern Taiwan. There were some injured soldiers. There was a hospital. Okay, so A12, that's the name of the hospital. And a lot of injured, soldier, they wear uniform, the blue uniform, wandering around in the town. And my hometown is very beautiful. In the front is the street, okay, in the main street. Back, because of our house is very big. So kind of between the main street and also at the back, facing another street. And at the back is a field and leading to a river and also a mountain. We call it Tiger Head Mountain. And a lot during those years, women have to climb up. They have to cross the river, go up to the top of the village, use the spring water to do laundry. Okay, there was no tap water. And those wandering soldiers always came out, do a lot of bad things to women, to little kids. A lot of kids disappeared. And my family, I come from a martial art family. My father, my grandfather, my great grandfather, they were all martial artists. And I have six brothers, three sisters. I'm the youngest. Okay, so since a young age, my mother would collect all the kids in the family in the morning, started her morning training. Okay, and also witness my brothers and my father training martial art all the time. Okay, every day, I would say, literally every day. And my father ran a construction company. So we have a lot of workers. And those workers are now very highly educated. Some of them can be very unreasonable. After they got drunk, they will come to our house, they want to borrow money, want to give you difficulties, always this type of scenario. So since a young age, I witnessed a lot of fightings, okay, among the workers. And the wars that come to our family between my brothers and those workers. And then, kind of grew up with this type of rough environment. So, since a young age, I started to have the awareness, I need to learn how to protect myself. That's how I started, from family education. Yeah. And later on, grew up and started to have a more formal instruction. Okay, starting from Qigong and internal martial art, Tai Chi, and then met our Shifu. We have multiple Shifu, but main Shifu is a Ma Jie, Grandmaster Ma Jie. Yeah. So, experiencing a series of training and step by step, I did not arrange, I did not design my life journey this way, but it just, there's a force kind of leading me to this direction. So that's how I ended up here. Yeah.
So you started out of necessity, but was there a point in your life where you felt like this was your life's calling to be a teacher, or did you always feel that way?
Very interesting question. Yeah, actually, I never thought that I would become a martial art teacher. I have my PhD degree,
Right.
University of Washington, in education, curriculum and instruction, and also I studied Chinese medicine. I used to be a professor at Seattle Institute of Oriental Medicine. So with this academic background and on the side, have been practicing martial art, at some point they're gonna merge. And in the beginning, we just help our shifu. We have one shifu, from Changzhou in China. We're gonna help him teach. Okay, we did not, Mr. John and I would never think, oh, okay, this will be our profession from now on. Never, never. Until very later stage, come, the school will become bigger and bigger, more and more students. Oh no, then we have to kind of legalize our identity. So we start registering and register as a martial art school. That's how it evolved. Yeah, we never set up the goal as, okay, I'm going to teach martial art for my life. No, I have been in academia for many, many years. Yeah, I taught at university, graduate school, and also medical school. So martial art that's a later on, evolved into the current situation.
Sounds like what some people might call fate. Master Zhang, how about you? How did you get started?
I started at a pretty young age. I started at 4, but it wasn't anything very serious. I think it was just like a karate class, like a lot of little kids will do. My background is a little bit different than Dudau's, Dr. Liu. I grew up originally in upstate New York, and I grew up in a very small town. And the town was predominantly white. And so I was the darkest kid in that town. There was a period of time that actually I thought I was like African American. That's of course, I was a stupid kid too, so that kind of helped. but because of that, because it was a very small town, there were people that were closed-minded, and so I found myself in predicaments.
Yeah.
I was bullied a lot as a little kid, so I started doing martial arts because I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be able to defend myself, and then I got in a lot of fights, as little kids will do. Eventually, I grew out of that. I think that my current journey in Chinese martial arts, it really started because I was trying to find, as I think a lot of kids of mixed blood do, they're trying to find, some kind of heritage, some kind of root, some kind of cultural root. So that's kind of what I was doing. I was trying to discover my cultural heritage in a way, from my Chinese side, and so I always appreciated Chinese martial arts, and that's how I got into it. I started with hard styles, and eventually it developed into internal martial arts.
That's the path most people take, I think. So how did you two meet each other?
Well, we were both taking a qigong class with the same teacher. We gravitated towards each other, and we were like really good practice partners. And
yeah, always giving demonstration.
Yeah.
Together.
So you've mentioned already Ma Jie, and that's somebody that I really want to talk about and want our listeners and viewers to learn about because the head of my organization, Dallas Arts Organization International, Hai Young, he actually, as a boy, knew Ma Jie. Ma Jie was friends with his grandfather, and he used to come to his house all the time, and he speaks very highly of him, and he's told me a lot of things about him, and holds him in very high regard. So maybe you could both tell us a little bit about how you met Ma Jie and who Ma Jie was, and so important in these types of martial arts.
Mhm.
So the way that we met him was like this. We had trained with someone previously. We trained with a teacher before in the style of Wudang Dan Pai. Dan Pai in Chinese internal martial arts is pretty famous because its main focus is Wudang sword. There are other components, but its main export is the Wudang sword. Its most famous recent practitioner, I guess, it's not even the modern era anymore, was Li Jinming in the early 20th century, the famous swordsman general. So we had trained with someone previously in that, and it hadn't worked out, but we did really appreciate that system. So we were looking for someone that we could train with, that we could learn and go deeper in that system with. And we searched all over. There are a lot of people that practice some variant of Dan Pai, Wudang Dan. The most famous is the two-person sword form, the two-person dueling sword. A lot of people do that. So it's not extremely rare, but we were able to come across a book called Wudang Dan, which was published in 1990. And it was written by Ma Jie, our Shifu. And we discovered that he lived in Tianjin. At that time, we didn't actually have a copy of the book. All we knew is that the book existed. And we were able to find a biography of this master. And it sounded interesting. But we weren't entirely sold. We also knew, in addition to doing Wudang sword, he also did something called Qigong Taiji. And we knew that he was in his late 70s at the time. In my mind, I thought he's probably this little old man, white hair. And with a name like Qigong Taiji, I thought it was going to be something that was more
meditative.
More meditative.
That's what we thought.
Something that's kind of more along the lines of like woo-woo, which is if I borrow the current parlance. But we went there anyway. We were able to track him down. Dr. Liu called someone in the Tianjin newspaper to get his address or phone number.
I wrote him a letter.
She wrote him a letter.
I still have that letter.
We called him on the phone, but we don't know what he looks like. So finally we traveled to Tianjin And I remember it was in the summertime. It was in late July. It was
Yeah.
very, very hot. In Tianjin, it gets very, very hot. And so we're going to find him. And we're looking around. We had a hard time finding his building first. We finally find his building. Now, of course, like I said, I had this image of this little old man, white hair, probably, slow movement.
Meditator.
We weren't sure that we were going to stick with this person. We were just going there to meet, and we had lined up a bunch of different people that we could train with and meet with on this trip. We ended up canceling all those different arrangements because when we met our Shifu, he was 180 degrees different than what I expected. He didn't look like an old man. He was physically very, very strong.
Muscle shirt.
He was wearing a tank top.
A tank top.
He had very strong muscles.
Yeah.
His hair was black and slicked back. He was wearing a leather belt with metal studs in it. And the swords he was very muscular. And the swords that he was using to swing around, they weren't pretty. Nothing was very pretty. So immediately I thought to myself, ooh, this is interesting.
Mm.
And then he invited us up to his home.
Oh, if you don't mind, his voice.
Yeah, his voice is very loud.
Very loud, very forceful, very strong.
It's very strong.
Mm.
And we went up to his home. He lived on the 4th floor. When we entered into his home, I knew, okay, this is a very different person than I expected.
Yes.
He had all these swords, these mean-looking swords stashed in a corner. He had the whole
punching glove.
He had the boxing gloves hanging.
Crossbow.
He had a crossbow hanging from his bookshelf. He had a dagger hanging from the wall. He had a row of the Fei Jian, the flying swords, the throwing knives. That was arranged on the wall as well.
And outside the balcony is a punching bag.
He had a punching bag.
Yeah.
He had a pair of nunchucks on the radiator next to where he sat.
All kinds of weapons. You can name it.
So we go in there, we sit down, and I'm kind of interested. But he himself, he was sort of looking us over. He wasn't entirely sold on whether he was going to teach us. Because at the time he was semi-retired. He had suffered an ear injury. So he was pretty much deaf.
Because of the New Year, Chinese New Year, the firecracker.
Yeah.
Someone set up, they're too loud, and then
someone set up a firecracker next to his head. So he was pretty much deaf at that time. But we go in there, we sit down, and he had this desk. And he reaches in the desk, he pulls out a sheet of paper. He goes, okay, now look at this. And I look at this. And they're palavering back and forth. And Dr. Liu, she's very polite. Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. And we're very impressed. And I'm looking at this sheet of paper. I'm looking over. And he divided the things that he could teach into 3 components: Gong, Quan, and Jian, which are like the 3 excellences of Wudang Dan Pai. The cultivation, the Qigong methods, the boxing technique, and the sword technique. So I'm looking at this. There's a whole set of Gong Fa, Qigong techniques. I don't know what they all are. It's like, Nerang Gong, I don't know what that is. Look at the next one. And I see Han Pai Wu Xin Quan. And so I asked him, so what is this Han Pai? And he said, it's from Han Wuxia. Well, I know who Han Wuxia is. He's very, very famous. He's very famous, internal martial artist. And I said, wow, you train with, you do you train with Han Wuxia. And he said, yeah, I'm Han Wuxia's the closed door disciple. I heard that. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. So, I'm getting really excited over here, but I don't want to show it. And so we kind of talk back and forth, and eventually, he finds out that we've practiced, the martial arts, internal martial arts before. We learned a version of Wudang sword, a version of Wudang Taiji. So he had us go downstairs. So we migrate downstairs again, and he had us demonstrate.
To add one note, when we were demonstrating, that's basically a test. It's a trial.
Yeah, right.
We had 2 Xu Shixiong and Zhou Shixiong. Okay, we have 2 Shixiong standing by the side, watching us. One is a Renmin Gongshi, communism, they have Renmin Gongshi. He's a president, kind of a VIP in a communism, community. And the other is a cop. Okay, she says he's a policeman. And two, sitting one each side, watching us, doing the technique. So one at a time, our will have us demonstrate. Okay, and you continue.
So she demonstrated Taiji, and she demonstrated Taiji, and our Shifu kind of, okay, yeah, he kind of like her, kind of the way she did the technique. Me, he's not so sure of because I'm like the way that I look like I'm Lao Wai. I'm a foreigner.
Lao Wai, and you know Lao Wai, right?
So he,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I know.
he's like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I want to teach this guy, or maybe I should beat him up or something. I don't know. Because he comes from he's come from the old way, right?
Oh yeah, he fought in Lei in platform every
Oh,
week.
wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He lost all his teeth.
Yeah, by the age of 30, he started fighting. So I go up and I demonstrate. I demonstrated what I learned of Wudang sword before. And he kind of goes, okay, yeah, not bad. And meanwhile, the two Gongfu brothers that are there, they're kind of showing their hand. They're like, oh yeah, these guys good. You should teach them. And he's like, I don't know if I should teach these guys. And so he comes and he says, Shao young man, can you you know how to do tuishou, you know how to do push hands? And I said, yeah, I know how to do some push hands. Okay, well, how about you touch hands with me? So we start rolling. He said, do you know how to do the single? I said, yeah, I know how to do single. Danshou, feishou. Okay. Can you know shuangshou? I know how to do shuangshou. Can you do sizhongshou? Yeah, I know how to do sizhongshou. So we're rolling. And he said, okay, can you do senpai? Can you do the free pushing? And I said, I don't want to be too boastful because I know that we're being tested.
Right.
So I think that if I come off like I know too much or whatever, he's gonna say, you guys, you know enough already. You don't have to train with me. So I said, yeah, I know a little bit, and we start rolling. And as we're rolling, he kept on. There was something with his rolling. It was kind of he was making some mistakes, and I thought, and not like he was keeping himself open. He was there was a lot of opening for technique, and I'm thinking to myself like. Do I take it? Maybe I should, right? Because I don't want to look like I'm trying to get him. But at the same time, he keeps on making these mistakes. Maybe he's trying to test if I can see those openings. And he was looking at me, kind of funny too. So I went for it, and I trapped his arms like this, like this. Trapped his arms like this. And so he kind of smiled, and I kind of smiled. Now I kind of feel a little bit embarrassed. Maybe I did the wrong thing. And he said, you got me, huh? And I said, yeah, And then he went like this. And he got underneath my arm, and I flew up in the air.
Yeah,
and I landed behind him. When I landed, I sort of had an out-of-body experience. And I stood there, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so now, what's going on here? And I hear some people laughing. And it was those two Gongfu brothers. They're laughing. Yeah, he did it to you too, right? Yeah. And then he proceeded to just completely take me apart. But not in a mean way, but right. We keep on rolling, and no matter what we did, he kept on just getting me. At one point, we got really low to the ground. We're in the pubu, right? We're in the low crouching stance, and he could still stay very, very low. He was very, very strong and flexible. And yeah, he could still get me down there. So at the end, I'm my head is buzzing. I'm really excited. And he sat down. There was a little chair there, and one of the Gongfu brothers said, "Hey, Ma Lao, Shifu, how about you demonstrate your Wudang Dan Pai?" And he was kind of, and we said, "Yeah, please, could we see a little bit? Because I want to see what this Qigong Taiji looks like." And he got up, and he only demonstrated a few moves. And he did some, he used fighting, he used some power, he issued some power with it. And I was sitting on the ground. And, in China, they have this this tile, kind of brick ground. And he did a movement, he did an. And with that one, he stomped. And when he stomped, I could kind of feel the ground like shake a little bit. Now it sounds like hyperbole, but I'm saying to you that there was some tremor in the ground.
I believe you.
And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible, right? Now I'm just a kid at this time, so I'm I'm jumping up and down. And he's, figuratively, not literally. And so he sits down, and one of the Gongfu brothers said, "So, Shifu, what do you think? You want to teach these guys or what?" And he's like, "I don't know. What about this guy's Yao Cui Gongfu, right? The Yao Cui Gongfu,
Flexibility.
the flexibility.
Yao
technique."
is a lumbar, Tui is a leg.
And so at that time, I didn't really know what that term meant. And so I said, "What's Yao Cui Gongfu? Like, what does that mean?" And so he said, "Hey, Xiaoxu, 过来." And one of the other Shishong, the one who was a police officer, he came over, and he just went right down into a split, a front split. And then he kind of looked at me like, "Okay, can you do that?" And I didn't know if I could do it, but I was like, "Well, okay. I mean, it's like the final test. I got to do this thing." And I got down there. I'm not going to tell you that it looked pretty when I got up, but I got down there, and that was kind of sealed the deal. He said, "Oh, okay, fine. I'll teach you guys." When he taught us, he worked very, very hard. I've never seen anyone work so hard, especially at that age. He worked very, very hard. And then as the more we trained with him, we got to know him more. He as far as his backstory is concerned, he didn't come from a martial arts family, but he came from, his father was a merchant. He was kind of a richer guy. He came from a richer family, and his father really appreciated martial arts. And his father was friends with a lot of martial arts at the time. He was friends with Huo Yanjia and also Han Wuxia. And so he really appreciated martial arts.
They can live on the same street.
Yeah.
Yeah, live on the same street with the Huo Yanjia.
Yeah. And then what we discovered later was that his background as far as Wudang martial arts is concerned, it started very young. He, at a young age, at around the age of, I want to say 6.
Yeah.
6
years old.
There was a Taoist master who was
Wandering Taoist.
A wandering Taoist master who was headquartered on Wudang Mountain in Yuzhengong.
Yuzhengong is at the bottom of Wudang Mountain.
Right.
Yeah, that's where Zhang Sanfeng cultivated himself. Yeah. At one point, it was burned down, but now they rebuilt it.
Well, no, it's not rebuilt. It was
a little bit.
No. It was the largest temple structure on Wudang Mountain. It was completely, of course, as most temples are, completely wood. It's huge. And then it was burnt down, I think, in the early 2000s because there was a martial arts school that was inhabiting it. I guess they were cooking something. They forgot to turn the burner off. So there's all that's left of it is a very small pavilion, and they turned that into I think they called it like Taiji Hu or something, like Taiji Lake. They filled in the rest of the area with water and they turned it into a lake. But anyway, that's where that master was headquartered.
Xuandan,
yeah.
Xuandan.
And he traveled up to Tianjin, and at one point he was staying in their home with our Shifu's father. And at that time, he met our Shifu, who was a young boy, and he could like do face reading and whatnot.
Right.
And so when he saw his face, he saw that that he was going to suffer some difficulties later on in life. And so he taught his father some techniques that he could teach the boy, some qigong techniques, lying in bed, 8 brocade, yeah, and some other simple things. And then he said when he gets old enough, he can come down to Wudang Mountain and train with me. But he has to enter Taoism first. He has to get older. He has to be old enough.
So that temple is called Tianhou Gong in Tianjin, Wenhua Jie, near in the district of Wenhua Jie.
Yeah.
You can find that Tianhou Gong, that temple.
Our Shifu was sent to that temple. He could receive a really good education there, and he learned about Taoism. He became, he entered into the Taoist gate at that time. And then 2 years later, when he was 8, he and his father traveled down to Wudang Mountain, where he became an official disciple of Shendan. And he lived with him there on Wudang Mountain for 10 years. Later on, because of the political turmoil, a lot of the monks left the mountain. And he went back to Tianjin. In around that time, he got really into boxing because he was 18, 19 at the time. And he just wanted to punch someone in the face. He was a bit of a lad.
Mm-hmm.
So
particularly during those years in the foreigners, the Bao Lianjun, you know this history, right?
Yeah.
8 country, the invasion.
Yeah.
To Tianjin.
Yeah,
I'm not
the
sure.
Russians. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been to Tianjin before?
I haven't, but that's where Master Yang, Hai Yang is from. So he grew up
Oh,
there. So
yeah, yeah. The
familiar with
architect,
the history.
yeah, a very big influence from.
Yeah, it's a really great place for martial arts. A lot of great martial arts.
Yes, very rough.
Tianjin's
Very,
a very rough city.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it was the same way when we went there. We would, on average, see a fight at least once a week.
I'll let you finish the part, but there's one thing, because Una mentioned that flexibility, right, and mentioned political turmoil, cultural revolution. Of course, it refers to cultural revolution.
Well, eventually,
Yeah, eventually, yeah. I would like to mention one thing about our Shifu.
well, I'll get to that point.
I'll let you
You're
know.
talking about Wenhua Dog, I mean,
His back.
yeah.
Okay,
I'll get to that
and then
point.
I'll leave it up to you. Okay.
So when he eventually, I'll give the Cliff Notes version. Eventually, he was able to meet Han Wuxiao, and he trained with him in Xingyi and Bagua. And also he learned Dianxue, the point striking.
Yeah.
From there, he became the local representative of Nanjing Guoshuguan for a period of time. He took over Han Wuxiao's school after Han Wuxiao passed away. He became a local representative of Nanjing Guoshuguan. And he became pretty well known in the area. That takes us to the time of the Cultural Revolution, which was a very interesting period for a number of reasons, but especially for him, because he was a well-known martial artist. And he also was, he really believed in the communism ethos. And so he was very outspoken, and that caused a lot of eyes to fall on him. And then eventually, I guess, some disciples that he had at that time turned him in to the Red Guard. So the Red Guard came to his home to arrest him and take him away. The first time they came, they tied him up with rope, and then he broke out of the rope and he broke a guy's arm. So they left, and they came back the next time with the wire, iron wire. They tied him up with that, and they took him away. And they wanted to take away his martial art ability.
You put Sijiu, you know the term? Break the four old traditions.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes. I'm familiar with that. Yeah. 4-0. Yeah.
Yes. Martial art is one of them.
Yeah.
So what they did was, it's pretty horrific. What they did was they broke his hand, they crushed his foot with a rock, and then they used bats to beat him in the back, and they hopped up and down on his back, and they broke his spine. So he is paralyzed at this point, and he wasn't able to see a doctor because all the doctors were afraid. Any doctor that was around, they were afraid that they would be blacklisted. They'd get in trouble if they even saw him.
Right.
So he was laid up in bed. He couldn't move. His spine was, it wasn't completely severed, but it was messed up to a degree that any type of movement could break it. He wasn't able to see a doctor for a year. And then what they did was they took him into surgery, and all they could do, as far as the medical science that time was, they just wrapped a piece of metal around his spine just to kind of keep it in place. But he was told that he wouldn't forget about moving around or anything. He wouldn't even be able to get out of bed again. So he was bedridden for quite a period of time, and his whole family suffered great difficulties. But while he was lying in bed, he thought about his old Taoist Shifu, how he'd seen some difficulties in his face, and he taught him those qigong techniques. And so he started practicing those qigong techniques while lying in the bed, and eventually he was able to heal himself to the degree that he was able to sit up, and then eventually he was able to stand up. And then when he was able to stand up, he started slowly practicing his standing qigong and his tai chi again. When we knew him, it's remarkable is not the word. It was in the realm of the fantastical. And
we saw the X-ray.
Well, that was the thing. See, because when we learned Wudang sword, he was still jumping up in the air and spinning around and rolling on the ground. And so it was hard to believe that he actually
very
suffered
low
this.
horse stance, very low.
Yeah, he was still very, very strong. Until one time, he went for a checkup and he got the X-ray of the lower back. And we were able to see that, yes, in fact, there is a piece of metal, there's a hunk of metal in his spine that was keeping it from breaking apart. It was incredible. You know, there were a lot of incredible things that he did. It was interesting. His mindset was not a mindset of the fantastical. He was very down to earth. He was very pragmatic and practical.
He thinks that he told me, you know, I feel sad that the Shifu, you know, in your age, you still work so hard, you know, live on the fourth floor, and his wife was ill, had been ill for many years, and he, an old man, taking care of his wife, you know, younger, how many years? 10 years? 20 years younger than our Shifu.
He has a second wife.
A second wife, yeah. The first wife passed away, you know, in early years. So every day he ride a bicycle to get grocery, and then carry grocery up to fourth floor, cook 3 meals, and do all the house chores. We feel sad. I said, we feel so sorry. We cannot, you know, live here to take care of you. He said, no, don't feel bad for me. I look at this as a cultivation. That's what he said. That really touched me.
Something I wanted to ask both of you is that when Hai Yang was speaking to me about Ma Jie, one of the things he said, and Master Yang is not given to hyperbole of any kind. He's a very scientific, you know, rational person, and he said that Ma Jie seemed younger the older he got. He said he was very old. He was very strong. He said he was more muscular at 70 than he was at 50. You know, what do you attribute that to? Was it just his overall, his attitude, or was it a specific practice? Or
A little tough. Okay.
I think it's probably a bit of both. Yeah. Honestly, I think that, you know, he had great techniques, but a lot of people have good techniques. A lot of people have great techniques. So, you know, and anyone can say, wow, you know, my Shifu is the best, right? Everyone thinks their Shifu is the best, right?
Right.
So it's not, I don't think it's just about the technique. I think it's about the mindset.
Yeah.
He had a very strong mindset. He didn't, you know, he wasn't, he was a Taoist, but he wasn't like super peaceful. He wasn't very soft. But what he did was he was always in good humor. And I mean, when we were with him, we laughed very hard.
Yeah, we have a lot.
He can always joke.
Yeah.
Some Shifu, some teachers, when they teach students and disciples, you know, they'll be very rough. He wasn't like that.
But he is strict.
He was strict.
He was strict.
He would just make fun of us until we do it.
Yeah.
He would shame us. But he had a very consistent lifestyle, and I think that his mindset was very, very strong. Yeah. That was he was rough, but I never heard him curse. He never said any bad words.
Yeah, that's true.
He was very, very clean. He was very concerned with cleanliness.
Sometimes he would take a bath and take a shower 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a person. There were a lot of
summer.
in the summertime, especially. He had a lot of anachronisms. On the one hand, he was very patriotic, I guess. You know, he was very. He believed in the power and the strength of the Chinese culture and heritage, and he came from the generation where foreigners are like, you know, bad guys, and so if you can beat up a foreigner, that's a great thing. And yet, and yet, you know, he had me as a disciple, and I wasn't the only one who was.
He's open-minded.
Yeah,
I would say
he was a person I could learn.
Yeah.
He fought against Japanese when they occupied Tianjin, and yet he had a disciple who was Japanese. So,
into Japan too.
And he had gone to Japan to teach.
Yeah, he told us his experience of fighting Japanese in Japan. Yeah.
I think the other thing was that he didn't consider himself old, and he always had the mindset that you always have to be on, you always have to be ready, you always have to be prepared, and there's always more to learn. The Taolu, the forms, always stayed the same. That was the tradition from his point of view. So whatever Taolu we had, Okay, you don't change that. That was one of the things that he told us. You don't change the Taolu. You don't change the anything. It's what you've got is what it is. But you can always improve upon the application. There's always a way that you can learn a better way. You see what's out there and you learn another way. That's actually kind of the way that he trained us in Sanda in the free fighting.
Mhm.
He was that's part of the way that he trained us.
When he trained me, no mercy.
Yeah, he made her fight too.
Oh yeah, our 师兄, we have a 师兄 who has a 教馆, 快教, Chinese fast wrestling. He owns his own dojo, martial arts school. When you're trained, my 师傅, took me down on the mat, he said, oh, get up, oh, are you okay? Kicking me, get up.
In a good humor way. Right? He wasn't like, but he was, hey, get up. What are you lying down for? Another thing I really appreciate about him, a lot of teachers are very male dominated.
Yeah.
We've had teachers in the past that didn't really value women, and so since we work as a team, it kind of it would bother me. And then of course her training was would suffer because of it, because she has to fight against that system. Our Shifu Ma Jie, he was not like that at all.
No.
The very first disciple he took was a woman.
Yeah,
And
he values me and really work hard.
Yeah. Anything that he trained me to do, he made her do as well. And when we became disciples, actually, he took her as disciples first. So she's technically speaking, she's of a higher rank than I am in the Mei-Hui. But yeah, he was always learning. He was always learning. When we would go and train in fighting, what we would do is, like what she said, we would go. He would take us to a wrestling school, and then he would just say, "Okay, now who's the best wrestler here? Okay, now you fight that guy." And he'd make me fight that guy, and he'd make her fight too, and then we'd get beaten up. Especially in the beginning, it wouldn't work out very well for us. But then what he would do is he'd go back and analyze.
Analyze.
And he'd say, okay, now how can you improve? What can we do?
Yeah.
He did the same thing. We'd go to a boxing gym in Tianjin. We went to a Taekwondo school in Tianjin. And we do the same thing. And then we would learn that way. And then, of course, we would train on our own with him. But, we were always trying to improve. And he would improve himself. He was always working out. He was always training. He believed in lifting weights. He didn't believe that, he didn't give himself up to fantasy. And he sort of thought of it as a shame if as a grandmaster he couldn't demonstrate, if he couldn't move, if he couldn't do these things. There was a time when we were in Dalian.
Oh, in Dalian.
And there was
northeastern China. Do you know the city of Dalian?
Yes, familiar with it.
Oh, okay.
We used to travel around with him when he would go and he'd give like lectures or demos or whatnot. So we traveled with him at one point to Dalian, and there was a Taiji master there. I'm not going to name names. No names will be named. But there was a Taiji master there who was about 10 years younger than our Shifu. And he was accompanied by 2 female disciples. And those female disciples, when he would walk on the street, they would hold him around the arm.
Yeah, I'm holding my Shifu. They are holding their Shifu.
He walked down the way like
2,
this.
one at one side.
Yeah. And the whole time, when we got there, the whole time our Shifu was like,
he's very naughty.
You look at that. Oh my God. And he is complaining.
He's younger than our Shifu.
So finally, he had enough. And we were walking down the sidewalk, down the street. I don't know where we were going. And he said, "Oh, okay, enough of this. You, come here." And he took those 2 disciples and he forced them away. And then the old man was there, Ma Jie, I don't know. And then he was wearing a camera, like a tourist. He grabbed the camera from over the top of his head and he held out in front of him.
Okay, come. If you want to get
you got to walk on your own. Come and get the camera.
Fun.
And that same trip, there was going to be a big demonstration. And she represented him doing Wudang Tai Chi. And I represented him doing Wudang sword. but he was going to get up and demonstrate the fighting application with me at some point. And other masters were there, and they complained. They said, "Oh, no, you can't do this," because they weren't going to get up and demonstrate, right? They're too old. And he said, someone actually, a representative, even came over to him and said, "Please, Ma Shifu, please,
you are too
don't,
old.
yeah, you're too old.
No,
It's gonna, and it's gonna make other people look bad. Please don't get up." And he said, "No, I know, I'm gonna go up there and demonstrate. I'm gonna show the application." He was very, very stubborn.
You want to share with Bill about the Hong Kong competition? It's beginning of this interesting point about our
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Let's talk about that.
That was when he was about 86. And there was
It's
there was a competition in Hong Kong. There were a couple of there were
competitions.
actually 3 competitions happening around the same time in Hong Kong. And so he had us sign up. We were going to go and compete, in his name. And one of the competitions, they invited him to be part of it as a VIP. And he said, "Oh, okay, yeah, great, yeah." And then this will be a great opportunity. He was very happy. And then, but they were going to fly other VIPs down there in a special jet, and they weren't going to afford him the same courtesy. And he took it as a slight. He was insulted. He said, "Well, okay, so what? You don't consider me to be, a high enough master? Is this it?" And so he said, "Okay, fine. I'm gonna show these people. I'm gonna show these people what a real master really is." So he was looking at the competition registration sheet, and he was looking at it all night long while we had gone home. We used to live down the street from him, for a period of time. So we had gone back to our home, and the next morning we went over there to see him, and he was sitting at his desk, and he said, "Okay, now I have something that I want to talk to you guys about." He pulled out the registration. Yeah, he pulled out the registration form. He wanted to sign up. But he didn't want to sign up doing forms. There was a Lei Tai Sanda division there, and he wanted to fight at the age of 86.
Wow.
So, of course, Dr. Liu Amelia she was trying to convince him not to do it. Sure, well, why do you want to do this? You're 86. You have nothing to prove. You're a grandmaster already. And me, I'm excited. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do this thing.
Can't wait.
I'll help you train. I'll go jogging with you. We'll do rope together. Yeah, it'll be great, right? So I'm getting excited, and he's looking at the sheet. He said, "Well, here's the thing. So they have this age division for ages 75 to 90, right? And we're both like, wait, what? What's going on? What's happening here? Yeah, 75 to 90, and he's saying to himself, I can beat some 75-year-old guy. I can take a 75-year-old guy."
Yeah, that's what he said.
So let me see that registration sheet. What's going on with this competition? And when we looked at it, it turned out that it was the weight class.
Weight division.
So he
that's the age.
I thought it was the age.
He was so disappointed.
He was very, very disappointed.
Wow, that's fantastic.
We felt really bad.
It's a great
He
story.
wanted to fight.
But that was his mindset. He was always, he always thought that it was important to be ready to fight. In the summertime, in Tianjin at night, when the sun would go down, the miners would come out. The people who work at the diggers and everything. All these dirty buggers that would be covered head to toe in soot, and they'd cause problems. And it was really easy to get mugged and robbed. People carry around the little knives. It's sticky with it. And he would walk around in those Lao Hutong, the old
valley,
alley,
yeah,
old alleyways. He'd walk, where surrounding his home, and he'd walk and get something to eat or something in that area. He'd wear a button-up shirt, short sleeve, but he'd keep it open, right? So to kind of get the air ventilation. In the front, there was a pocket, the breast pocket, and he'd take his wallet and he'd stick it there. And we'd say to him, "Shifu, this is kind of dangerous. I mean, you're showing that you got the wallet right there." And he would carry around a metal fan. And he'd say, "Oh yeah, no, this is practice. This is good practice for me." Right?
Wow.
He was hoping that someone would try to mug him.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he loved to fight.
That's a common attitude of an 18-year-old, but you don't see that too much in an 86-year-old man.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's quite a character.
he was very
Arthur was
lively.
quite a character.
We had a Gongfu brother. He was at that time, he was about, let's see, 40, about 20 years younger than our Shifu. And at that time, he was in his 60s. And I remember him sitting next to our Shifu. You know, our Shifu was sitting at the desk, and we'd have chairs and the couch and everything surrounding this. And our Gongfu brother would say, Shifu, we're getting old. We're old men now. And our Shifu was like, speak for yourself. I'm not old. Maybe you're old. I'm not old.
Yeah, that's the way you talk.
Because he had the mindset. You know, he had the mindset that he's not old.
Yeah,
And so he didn't look old.
Oh, speaking of which, let me add two more small things.
sure.
We have one picture, old picture, after, passed away, from his home, and right now he's in our office, in our school. That was taken in Tianjin University when he was in his 70s, 75. And the student took that for him. He was holding a sitting meditation, cross the sitting meditation on the top of the work. I don't know what that is.
It was like the top of a cap for a well or something. I'm not really sure what it was.
Yeah, it looked like that. We have student guests. Our student guest, he was in his early 30s, 30 or 31.
40s maybe.
And at most it would not go beyond 40. Actually, he was already 76 at that time. And the muscle, is still very, very pronounced.
Yeah,
Muscle.
yeah.
Yeah.
He was a very
And
inspirational.
his complexion is still very beautiful. Yeah, still very clean, and he had rosy cheek. He had a rosy cheek, but even in his 80s.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think that
Yeah.
it's, you asked the question of whether it's the technique or the mindset or something, and I think that
Everything.
once again, like the technique, yeah, of course, I really appreciate his techniques. That's what I practice, right?
Mhm.
But it's not just the technique. I think that he was very inspirational. He was a person that could learn, but he was very set in his ways. He was a person that liked to beat up foreigners, and yet he took them as disciples.
Mm.
He was a person that
Very open-minded. I would say he's very open-minded. In
he
his 80s, he's still trying to learn computer.
yeah,
Children computer.
yeah, he was teaching himself English for a
86
while.
years old, he still bought a computer and still trying to figure out.
That's great.
And he really believed in the power and the system of martial arts. He really cared about his own manpai. There are some teachers and masters nowadays that I think they're willing to kind of get on the bandwagon of the well-known arts of the day, like everyone does the 24 form, everyone does the 42 form, and we've known people that they have their own particular system, and they're willing to change that system and adjust it to fit the popular styles that are currently in place.
Right.
There were people that kept on telling him, say, hey, look, you've got this Wudang sword, that's great. Why do you have to keep on talking about fighting? And he said this is what it is. It's martial arts.
Right.
I think to change the topic, Bill, I believe you'll be interested in the way we train. Okay, the schedule when we were there. I believe is very important.
Yeah, I would love to hear about that.
I'll let you talk. Okay, well, during the time when we were there, we train 3 times a day. I would say 3 times a day. How about you want to talk about that in the morning?
Sure. Yeah, we would
early morning.
Yeah, we'd start early morning at 6 a.m. And that's not that early. But we'd get up, we'd go and start training with him at 6 a.m. We train for about 2 hours. And then after that, he and all the disciples would get breakfast and we go up to his home.
A small round table. And 吃天津煎饼果子. Oh my God, so delicious.
And then after that, after we'd eaten,
I'm an old man.
Some of the disciples had to go to work. But he would then continue to lecture until noon.
And we recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And take notes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it was. And then we'd go over again at night and we'd eat dinner with him and continue to train. Yeah, he was very, very hardworking.
And after we go back to where we stay, after dinner at a hotel in a Huahu in Tianjin, there's a special area, kind of what is that called? Huahu.
Yeah.
Okay, so after dinner, Una and I sometimes we practice in the stairway, in a staircase, and sometimes we go up to the top of the roof, and we practice there.
Yeah, we used to
3 times.
There was a hotel down the street from where he used to live that they would rent out rooms by the month, and so we ended up living in that place rather than having to get like an apartment or anything, because it was already like furnished and everything, and
Right.
It was centrally located. So we ended up living there for like 3 years, and we'd go back there and we would practice. There was a stairwell we would practice. We'd go up to the roof like what she said and practice.
Yeah, the point I would try to emphasize is the way he teaches. He is a person. He's a martial. I would not call him master, just a martial art practitioner who is good in his in skills, very skillful, highly skilled, and he is good at teaching. Okay, and know how to teach, enthusiastic about sharing. Okay, and also he is a good fighter. He can fight, he can write, he can read, and he can teach you. He is willing to help you to grow. So for this, all of these together, even he passed away for so many years, Unai and I would still love him dearly.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, every time I told I told our students, every time when I started leading the Tai Chi forum, okay, the first one, immediately our Shifu's voice ringing in my ear. So loud. 3 points from a straight line. 百会 point, 会阴 point, 水泉 point. The 三点极限. His voice so loud, ringing. So sometimes when students are not focused, I say, hey, you should feel, you're lucky. You have a teacher here who is willing, to keep on reminding you of the most important things at all time. Right now when I'm leading you guys, I'm thinking about my Shifu.
Yeah.
Every single detail that he trained us.
I think that
he wasn't a greedy person either. He was. Some people, they look at us and we come from, a foreign land and say, oh, okay, great. They have more money. And we would, especially later on, when we stopped living consistently in Tianjin, we would travel back still to visit with him 3 times a year. And when we would travel back, we'd bring him medicine, and we would, bring some money from the States that, he could support himself with, or like if he needed medicine or something, or he could buy it. And so we have these envelopes we give to him. And after he passed away,
those envelopes still there. Yeah. The money is still there. Yeah.
I think that, from the sound of it, I mean, I know that both of you feel very fortunate to have had a teacher like that, but I think he was probably also felt fortunate to have students like yourselves. It's not that common nowadays, unfortunately. As you know, it's very hard to find a good student, and it makes it difficult to be a teacher. So he's probably felt very fortunate to have you.
Oh, you're right. In Tianjin newspaper, okay, there was a headline. You go, Ma Jie 四处密传人. Ma Jie looking around over, looking for successors.
Yeah.
And at the end, secretly, he really told us that he was so fond of us, so happy to have us. But I still remember the last time, when we, before he passed away, the last visit. Oh my God, yeah, I tried not to cry. Okay, the last time we both kowtow, and 3 of us have hugged each other, and he just said, okay, Una, you're just my son, and you are my daughter. 3 of us, we cried together after kowtow to him. That's the last meeting before he passed away. Yeah, so our relationship, our bond has developed to that point. And even now, thinking back about what he has done for us, every day when we bow to hear Johnson phone, okay, and the deities from the mountain. We bow to Lao Qianbei. If you see our school website, you see the photos on the wall. Okay, those are kind of previous master. That's our ritual. Every day we bow to Shi, Zhang Feng, and Zheng Wu Da Di, those and Zhang Feng, those deities in our altar. Okay, and then bow to the photos of the previous master, and then there's a huge photo in our school. We bow to our Shifu. Everything will come to our mind. So that's our ritual. We enter before we come home, and our students do that too. Yeah, so it become a tradition. So every time when students who are Christian, I say no, we are not forcing you to accept the Taoism or whatever. No, it's just to show appreciation and respect. Feel thankful about what we are given. Okay, whatever we have, we should consider it as a blessing. Okay, without those people who are willing to sacrifice for you, and then how can we have this? So sometimes when students who cannot appreciate, they think, oh, martial arts school, I pay tuition, and then I get pins. Okay, kind of become a business transaction. I said,
Yeah.
no, then I'd rather you leave school. Okay, we teach you with our heart. Yeah, and we want students who have a heart too. You can appreciate.
Well, he was the same way. I mean, he would kick disciples out. If he had if there were a couple of times we had Kung Fu brothers or sisters that when we became disciples, the Guiju, the rules that we had that he set up, they were very special. They were very they're different than other, like we have other masters and everything later, but the rules that they normally set up are they're more akin to respect the Shifu, respect Kung Fu brothers, love the system, support the system, those type of things, right? Basically Confucianistic things. But he had in the rules, you have to stand up for justice, and if someone is in danger, you have to fight. Like he had the mindset of a wuxia, of like a knight errant.
It's like Wudang, right? Martial morality. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and he always had that mindset. So he was always trying to instill that in disciples.
Yeah.
I think that it wasn't really just about like fighting for him. It was about justice.
Yeah.
He had this
chivalry.
Justice. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, chivalry.
And it's it at the time, and probably still now, it made him appear outdated and weird to people around him to have this mindset. But we really appreciated it. We loved it.
Yeah.
And if there were disciples that he felt really, broke the code, he would kick them out. And and this didn't happen often, but there was one occasion where we were talking to him. And he said, "Oh, you remember so and so?" I said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "Oh, we don't talk about that guy anymore. He's out. Don't talk to him. Do not talk to him. Like he's out of the system."
Oh, the director of the news agency.
Well, don't name names.
No, which one? There are so many.
Yeah, sure. It's China. China's not that big of a place.
Oh, really?
I wanted to ask you about, I wanted to talk to you about the book a little bit. This is how I found you. And, I can recommend this book to everyone. It's Major Methods of the Wudang Sword, which is translated by Dr. Liu and has a forward commentary by Master Chang. Could you talk a little bit about how this project came about, the book?
Okay. Because since Mei Jie has simplified Wudang Dan Pai, okay, into 13 major methods. And then when we were training, we need to know about that very well. And when we're teaching, we need to be able to deliver this knowledge and skill to our students. So I think it will be handy, if we have something kind of written and, to help students to understand. So that's how it came out. Yeah. And it was done in pretty kind of rushed manner. Right now, if you want us to rewrite. We are planning to write another Wudang Sword class, not class. I mean the book. Okay, so the second one it come up will be a lot more thorough. We will incorporate, some insights and techniques, that we have developed during so many years of teaching.
I really
to
enjoyed the
elaborate.
book, and one of the,
Elaborate.
So what happened was, yeah, that book by Huang Yanshou, that's one of the two like major works, the classics, if you will, on Wudang sword. There's an older one which is very esoteric and hard to digest. Some people have added some bits and pieces into it. That's by Song Lei, Li Jinling's master. But this one, the Huang Yanshou book, the major methods of Wudang sword, it's very practical. It's very clear.
Yeah.
And what it really is it's a manual, a student's manual that he, or kind of almost like a learning diary that he kept for himself. So there are some things that are not elaborated on very clearly. There are some things that are very clear. There's a whole section with pictures detailing.
I just wanted to show everybody that it does have historical photographs, actual technical photographs. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. And one of the interesting things about the book was that you mentioned in the book, I actually studied Wudang sword myself, and from a teacher from a different lineage. And my education is pretty limited. I've only learned a little bit from him, but in the book you talk about how in the tradition that you learned that there were actually throwing daggers, like throwing swords. And when I read that, I'd never heard that anywhere before. And I bought the book. I've actually had the book for a couple years now, and it was back in I think September that I was in Montreal visiting Master Yang, and somehow this came up. We were talking about Ma Jie, and somehow the book came up, and I asked him because he's very he knows just about everything about the history of this sort of things. I said, is this really a thing? These flying daggers? He said, yeah. He said it's something that was almost completely lost. We
are practicing that.
Yeah, and that's what he said, and that made me really excited to talk to both of you because I'd never seen that anywhere else before.
So
by the way, have you had a chance to watch the two documentary on our website on YouTube?
I've seen some of the videos on YouTube. I don't know if I've watched the documentary.
Journey, because there are some video that will not practice that.
Oh wow, I'll have to look at those. Yeah.
Well, going back to what you were saying, there is mention of Fei Jian in Song Wei's text. That's the oldest text on Wudang sword, and of course there are anecdotal stories about how Song Wei had the throwing knives, the throwing swords. Of course, in the text that Song Wei writes, it's called Fei Jian, the flying sword.
Right.
And at the time when we first were able to see a copy of it, we didn't know what Fei Jian was. So we thought like it's flying in the air or something. We didn't know. And we didn't know what it was until we met our shifu. He was still practicing it. And he had a whole set of the throwing knives. They were shaped like small swords.
Actually, you could show.
Yeah, I could. I guess I could go over there and grab.
You want to? We have the original.
Well, I would love to see one. Yeah.
Well, let me finish this, and then you can palaver with. You can stall for time while I go grab one.
Okay.
But he had them specially made, and the true technique. There are basically two different methodologies, but there's the true technique of Wudang Fei Jian. Anyone can throw a knife. Anyone can do throwing weapons. That does not, from our shifu's point of view, that does not make the Fei Jian. That does not create the opportunity for Fei Jian. The true Fei Jian is when you combine the regular sword with the throwing sword. And so there's he had like a holster almost, and he could stick the blades in, and then he'd be doing his technique. He'd switch to one hand, and then he could throw the throwing knife
from different angles,
different positions, and everything. Yeah. So that was one of the things that we received after he passed away, was his throwing knives. Here, I'll let you elaborate while I go
And the
fetch
tiny
one.
boy, you can see.
Sure.
Okay.
You
So
palaver a bit.
is there a plan for another book? Are you working on another book right now, or is that something maybe for the future?
Right now, we have a Baba book that's still in progress. I have to finish that first. Yeah, after the Baba book finish, and then we'll start working. We have two more, the three projects at hand. One is the Baba book, the other is the Qigong Neigong Taiji, and the third will be the Wudang sword.
That's
And
fantastic.
add a little bit something information, just for information, just in
Sure.
case people are interested. Okay. The Qigong Taiji and Neigong Taiji, okay, the form basically is similar, the movement, the technique looks similar, but the nature and the energy are different. Okay. So originally, this Neigong Taiji come from Taoism practice.
Mm.
Early morning, I still remember my Shifu always told us, in early morning in Yuzhen Gong, okay, and every morning when the bell rang, all the Taoist monks get up, Lian Gong, okay, practice Gong internal power training, and that is what they practice. So originally just Nei Gong Tai Chi, no Quan. Quan means boxing, you know that.
Right.
Nei Gong Tai Chi, that's it. That's a Gong. But later on, our Shifu taught at Tianjin University. A lot of senior citizens, they attend they call senior university, 老人大学. And some people have medical condition.
Right.
There's no way they can stay so low and do the fighting all the time.
Yeah.
So my Shifu add the first section, I go 无极定式. Normally Tai Chi, you practice Tai Chi, you know that.
Yeah.
The 无极定式, very
Yeah.
simple. But in this Qigong Tai Chi, our Shifu, he elaborate from Neigong Tai Chi, there's a whole set of Taoism Qigong, and that's called 无极定式. So basically, the entire 无极定式includes 6 parts. By itself is already, Qigong, a Neigong training. And the second thing is that, this set of Qigong Taiji and Neigong Taiji, they were designed based on Chinese medical theories.
Right.
Zhangfu theory and Jinluo theory, internal organ theory, and the meridian and point theory. So very cool. So I still remember many years ago, probably 18 years ago. Yeah, I taught at Bellevue College. Some students came in with knee pain, with all kinds of condition. At the end of the quarter, they all left the class happy.
Yeah, I bet.
That's how. Even Japan, the NHK, they send people to Tianjin to give our Shifu an interview and send people there to learn. And our Shifu also went to Canada, invited to Canada to teach. We still have students he taught during those years and traveled to Seattle looking for us to learn the thing.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Interrun.com.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, so these are the flying swords, these are the throwing swords.
This from our Shifu. This is original.
Yeah. So these are the. Can you grab this?
Sure.
These are the custom made.
Wow.
The 12 of
They
them.
really do look like small Jin, huh?
Yeah.
Small swords.
The 11 were given to us after he passed away, and then one was given to the other disciples. And if you look at the individual blade, please. So the blade itself, you have a wooden handle, a little tassel. The tassel itself is designed to kind of help with the aerodynamics. The blade itself is, of course, the regular sword. There's some engraving here. It says Ma Jie Wudang Fei on the side, Wudang Fei Jian on this side, Ma Jie.
Yeah, there's an encryption there.
Yeah, and then what he would do is he would have a holster of 6 places. So it's 6. You could carry 6 on you at a time, and then he would deploy it as while he did the technique.
So would he do this only when he was using a Jin, or with bare hand also?
Say that again, please.
Would he use the daggers when he was using a regular straight sword, or would he do it with bare hand martial arts also?
you could practice with both, but the true methodology of the Wudang flying sword is done with a regular blade.
Yeah.
And so what that does is there's two purposes for that. One is for trickery. If you're dealing with an opponent, maybe with a longer weapon or something that's really good, your goal is to survive. It's not about winning a contest. Or dealing with multiple opponents. So it was very interesting the way that he would teach. He didn't teach sword, especially. He didn't teach the sword art as this archaic, antiquated thing.
He did not teach this to any disciples.
No, he taught it. Yeah, he didn't.
He did not.
He didn't teach. He did not teach it widely, I should say. Yeah. But he would teach his arts with the concept that you could still use it. So even sword, when we learned sword, he would say, "Hey, you learn this sword, but I mean, if someone comes at you with a baseball bat or a pipe or something, you can still use it. As long as you have a stick, you can do something."
Right. Same principles. So we're starting to run out of time. So I definitely wanted to ask you about your current teaching. Could you explain to our audience where you are and what your school is like? What your program is like?
You can talk about that. First of all, I'm curious about whether you have visited our website before.
I have, yes.
Oh, you have.
Yeah.
In the I'm not sure whether I put it in the media section. There are some photos of the school, the physical appearance.
Yes.
Okay. You're interested, I can even send that to you. The school, what the school look like. Yeah. Okay, so what part do you want to focus on? The teaching?
How we teach. And,
okay, then you talk. Okay, I'll let you talk.
Well, we teach, we have a school location. We're located here in Seattle. We teach 6 days a week. We have group and private lessons. And we try to keep the same concept, teach in the same way. I am not so, as a teacher, I don't think I'm very daring. I'm kind of a traditionalist myself. And so I don't like to change a whole lot. So we keep the Taolu, the ancient techniques, as authentic, as in place as possible. Of course, we're shaped and built differently than our teachers, but we try to teach it as in line as possible. And of course, when it comes to technique, when it comes to application, there are a number of ways that you can apply things. It's not the case that everyone that does martial arts wants to fight. Some people do martial arts because they want to be healthy. Some people do martial arts because they want to get in shape. Some people would do martial arts because they like the cultural aesthetic. And I think that with internal martial arts, you can get all of that. It's not the case that by doing internal martial arts, you're going to necessarily become a big fat guy or something, right? You can still be strong. You can still be in shape. You can improve your health. If you're someone who is sick or suffering from a chronic injury or illness, you can overcome that. If our Shifu could do it under these incredible, tremendously dramatic instances, then of course, if you're having, like a stiff back or something, or a stiff neck, you can get over that too. If you want to be able to defend yourself, absolutely, absolutely you can. And I think that part of that is staying on top of the current trends and what is out there. But that's the burden of us. That's on us to do that.
Yeah, we consider it as a responsibility. We have strong sense of responsibility of teaching the art, in kind of more comprehensive way. Focus both on health cultivation and also practicality. Unai and I, we still consistent training. We don't stop. Yeah, because we don't have the concept. We don't hold the concept. Oh, now we are Shifu. Okay, it's time for me. Relax. Because I was told by another Shifu to do that. I said, no, just because you are Shifu, you have to continue learning so that your student can keep on growing. That's our concept.
Some people have that mindset, and that's a mindset that our Shifu Ma Jie did not have. He was always trying to learn something, even in his older years. So we
So-
take that as an example to kind of live up to. You know,
So
if
that's,
he can be 89 years old and still trying to teach himself English and how to
Mhm.
work a computer and trying to stay on top of the current trends in martial arts, then why can't we, at a younger age, be doing the same thing?
another thing that Unai and I we both are doing is that we don't hold ourselves. We are Wudang Dan Pai. We are the best. We just hold on to this. No, we are open-minded. We're still training.
Right.
Other styles of martial art, even sword, Wudang sword, other styles of sword. We're still training.
Yeah, ultimately,
We practice
we have,
and boxing too.
Yeah.
Other styles.
ultimately,
Yeah, we
ultimately, of course, it's our point of view that we have a great system and we have had great masters. But, like I said before, everyone thinks that their masters are great. Everyone
Yeah.
thinks their system is
They are
great.
always good people out
It's
there.
not the system or the master that makes the practitioner great. It's
Yeah.
the individual. It's the mindset that you take, that you move forward with. If you're a person who's humble and is always learning,
Yeah, speaking of humble, I always remind our students, some students after winning some gold medals, they become, they think they're on the top of the world. I said, no, even Una and I, we still like this, humble, respectful.
Yeah.
And when you meet other martial art practitioners of other styles, you always need to be humble.
Yeah.
Reserved, because there are always people who are better than you are.
No, so
Yeah.
true.
We keep the mindset of the lifelong learner.
Yeah.
That's the mindset we have.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the secret gift of martial arts is that, that no matter how long we live, we'll never learn all of this. There's always something new to learn, and that's what
Yeah.
makes it so great. Um, Given that you've had the personal experience of training with somebody like Ma Jie and your other teachers, and that, especially in Ma Jie's case, where he could have, all of that knowledge could have easily been lost through what he suffered through in the Cultural Revolution and things like that. But it survived and was passed along to you. What is your outlook for the future of these types of arts? Do you have a good outlook for it? Do you see it like surviving on into the next century? What's your opinion on that?
how do you go first?
Yeah, I think I'm more optimistic. Although I'm not sure if you heard about Xu Xiaodong. The Xu
Yes,
Xiaodong.
yes, I know Shu
Yeah,
Xiaodong.
that's why you ask. I know. Yeah, that it created very huge impact
Yeah,
particularly internal martial art world,
Yeah.
particularly IG.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's up to us.
Yeah.
First of all, I personally, I don't think it's necessary for us to go out to argue, with people on the internet and
Right.
negotiate, have all kinds of battle to argue to defend yourself. Oh, actually, Chinese martial art is good. No, if you are good, show me. Okay, we need to have the ability to prove that, yeah, you say I'm not good. Oh, okay. I know what I can do.
Right.
Okay, if you show your confidence and you work hard for the system, and then your words will spread out. Words will spread out. So, for example, some people have some type of conception. They go, oh, when it comes to fighting, this will be the best style. That not so good. Just like what Una said, I agree with him. It's about individual. Okay, within a very good system, there's still some practitioners who are not good. Okay, and then now the whole world says, oh, Chinese martial art, 好看不好用, beautiful, look pretty, but not good to use. And then depending on how we use it, how we express. As for your question about what is the future about Chinese martial art, particularly internal martial art. Okay, because in the past years there has been some controversial issues, talking about how impractical the Chinese martial arts. So when facing the criticism like that, based on my own family and cultural upbringing, my attitude is that first I examine myself, ourselves, and our system. That's the first thing I do instead of getting angry and fighting against people verbally or even go on internet, to do those things. I don't think that's a good way. First, we need to think about, do we really, have those weaknesses or, those problems as to what people claim. that we do. If we do, and then of course we want to try to change it, because for the past 100 of years, the way Chinese martial art instructors, particularly internal martial art instructors, the way they, of course, I'm part of the system, okay, and I kind of a little bit off, away from the ancient time, the traditional way those martial artists, those codes and the discipline and the training methods, and also the purpose, the function of Chinese martial art used to have. We kind of off track. So, I'm thinking about Mr. Chang and I, we always discuss the question like this, think about how to improve and to try to find out, what weakness we have, what strength we have. And besides, we would like to, open our eyes, our mind, to look around the world, because each and every martial art style in the world has their own strengths. Okay, we cannot just close the door, claiming yourself to be the top of the world. That's ridiculous. Okay, and of course we do have strength, and other people have strength as well. So instead of just hold on to what you have and angry about what people say about us, we open our eyes. If when there's a chance, we even train, we even learn from other people, and then through exchange, this culture exchange, skills exchange, the give and take and the back and forth, you understand your system even better. So far, my personal attitude is that I'm optimistic. Last time at the end of the interview, I said my attitude is optimistic. Because instead of going out arguing with people about how good I am, you need to be able to show when situation requires.
Right.
Okay. He said, Tai Chi is not for fighting. Yes, depending on how you practice. Okay. And in our system, we don't just have Tai Chi, we have Tai Chi, we have Xing Yi Quan, we have Zhang, we have Wudang Sword. The system is very broad. So when people criticize Tai Chi, yeah, it's okay, depending on who is practicing it and who you train with. And, as an instructor, how you pass down the skills and knowledge to your students. So, we feel the sense of responsibility. First of all, we have to become good, and we need to understand what we are doing. And then the way we educate our students, we need to keep the practicality, and also the health cultivation component is there already. We shouldn't lose it. And the practical aspect, we should include that as well. So through this training, if it is the training method is correct, that the attitude is consistent and humble, I think humility is very important. Okay, as long as we keep this humble attitude, and besides, if you have the ability, when it is required to show, and then people start to realize, oh yeah, something different. What people say about these guys, and then little by little, I believe people are smart. I really trust, audience and those martial art practitioners. They are smart. They have eyes. They have brains. They can tell the difference. Yeah, as long as we are humble. Yeah, we don't give up. Okay, but at the same time, we're consistently improving ourselves. Yeah, put up the antenna, open our eyes, and open our minds to accept, the good, impact from other style of martial art. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I think it's important to keep these arts living arts, and they've always grown. They've always been a living thing. There's no reason to stop and preserve the moment in time to keep going.
If you keep it up to date,
Right? Yeah.
I think that is the concept, up to date.
Yeah, I would agree. Master Chang, do you have anything to add to that?
I also agree with what you're saying, that the issue of living arts. I think that it depends on the future of Chinese martial arts in general, not just internal martial arts. Has to do with a lot of things. Has to do with whether or not it can bridge this gap of being a Chinese art form into a world. right? There are a lot of disciplines and arts that have bridged that successfully, and so I think that I think that has to do with whether or not anyone from elsewhere beyond China is allowed to be considered to be really great at it. Look at basketball. Basketball is, a world art.
Right.
You have people from all over the world, from Germany, from China, not just the US, that are incredible at basketball.
Yeah.
Same thing with baseball. Now, baseball is America's pastime, and yet the Little League champions are from Taiwan.
Right.
So it's the same thing with Chinese martial arts. I think that, especially having lived and trained in China, we've been around this sense, at least the way it is in mainland China, the sense that this is a particular Chinese thing, and no matter how good anyone else in the world is, the best will always be in China.
Right.
And I think that's certainly an outdated concept.
Right.
That's not the concept necessarily in anywhere else in the world. That's certainly the concept in mainland China.
Yeah.
And whether or not the Chinese martial art, as a system, can grow beyond just being a Chinese art, that's dependent on the practitioners.
Yeah.
It's dependent, just like what Dr. Liu said, whether or not they can study and grow and improve. And that's not just relegated to the fighting systems, the fighting aspect. Internal martial arts can be used in a number of different ways. Basically, there are three major ways that you can use it. There's the fighting application, there's health, healing. That could mean a number of things. That could be like psychological, emotional healing, beyond just the physical. The last one is, I think, the weakest, personally, although I'm not going to knock anyone who does it. And that's mostly as a performance art. A lot of people focus on that performance aspect, making the movements as beautiful and pretty as possible, or as exciting as possible. But ultimately, that approach, I think, is limiting. There's no purpose. There's no deeper purpose to the practice. When it comes to the health art and the martial art, there are always ways that we can study and improve. Not necessarily change in the sense of getting rid of what is old. We build on top of that. That's what the old systems did anyway. They always built on top of the pre-existing information, the pre-existing knowledge, to create a better and stronger system. So if Chinese martial arts and internal martial arts in particular can do those things, then I think that, they might have a bright future. If you can do those things, then you can speak to the population at large and give some proof, to the purpose of those practices. If you can't, then the practitioners open themselves up to a lot of criticism, which is currently the case.
Mm-hmm. But we as individuals, and also since we have a school, we are doing our best, to improve ourselves. And, hopefully, there will be more and more people share the same philosophy and working hard together. And little by little, probably can change people's view, Chinese martial art.
Yeah, I think you guys are on the right track, because you just listening to you talk about your teaching experiences and your teacher and the way that you have a sort of a holistic approach to the arts, covering all the bases as far as what, Master Zhang was saying, the healing and, the martial arts aspect and everything like that. You guys sound like you have a complete package. So hopefully people will see this and look you up. I think you're great examples of teachers that are doing the right thing. So it's been an honor to talk to you. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.